Okay, so today we're gonna make a crazy cake, and crazy cake was actually invented quite some time ago, and I got the recipe from my wife, and basically she got it from her mother, so it goes far, far back. The funny part is with crazy cake, it was made without eggs and butter, so at that point there was basically a shortage of eggs and butter, and that's how they came up with the recipe. For me, up to this date, I cannot believe that this tastes such a good cake without butter and eggs, because usually everywhere there is butter and eggs. But not only that, this is probably one of the easiest cakes you can ever make, and the beauty of it is it never fails. So let's get right into it. First, what we're going to do is we're going to mix all our dry ingredients. So the dry ingredients are basically our cocoa powder, then we have our sugar, we have flour, we have baking soda, and then we have some salt there as well. So let's start first with the dry ingredients. So I'm using a KitchenAid, and also too, what I prefer to do it with a scale. I know some people they like to use cups, but you can always convert it into cups if you prefer that. I'm from an engineering perspective, I like to have it on a scale, because the scale, the weight for everybody is the same, it doesn't matter. But 3 cups of flours can be a little bit more, a little bit less, and when it comes to baking, it's nice to have a nice baseline, and that your baseline doesn't change. And the moment you work with a scale, your baseline will never change. So I'm going to turn the scale on, and right now, basically with my bowl on it, it's 0 grams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add baking powder, and what I need is 60 grams. Okay. You can also see the recipe in a written form later on below. So, and I just pour it in like this and make it close to 60 grams as possible. So right now it's 57, 58, 59, and 60. To be honest, this was 61, but it's still more accurate probably than any other way to measure it. Okay, so we got that. The next part we're gonna have the sugar. So I'm gonna zero this again, and there I'm gonna add 180 grams of sugar. Now sugar is a funny thing, because if I use a recipe from Germany, I always put in a little bit more sugar. If I'm going to make a recipe from US or North America, I'm going to remove some sugar from the recipe. So 177, 179, 181. So again, even if it's 181, some people they take some back out or whatever, but I just leave it as it is. It's okay. It's almost the same. Now with the flour, again zero it out. And the flour, I use a spoon, and we're going to need 360 grams of flour. So we're almost there. So we're at 250, 290, 329, 349, 360. That's funny. We stay with the theme. 361. Everything is 1 gram more than what the recipe calls out for. Now, in this case, with the teaspoons, I use teaspoons. Baking soda. So there, and I always mix it in with the with the flour a little bit, but in this case it's not super critical because we're mixing the dry ingredients anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much. So after we have the baking soda in, we're going to use salt. In this case it's 1 teaspoon of salt, so probably enough. So 1 teaspoon of salt, we're going to mix that in there. And now we're going to put this in the mixing bowl. For me, every time when I basically put something in the mixing bowl, it's for me time to turn on my stove. So I'm just going to put this on slow speed. And while this is going, I'm gonna turn on the oven. In this case, I'm gonna put it on 350, and that should be then ready. That should be ready, preheated, just in time for us to have all the ingredients together. So as we're mixing the dry ingredients, what we always can do to speed up the process, you can mix the dry ingredients, and as the dry ingredients basically mixing, you can go and search for all the parts but going to go for the fluid ones. So what we're going to do is we're going to use avocado oil, we're going to use white vinegar. This one I already scaled in advance, because the vinegar you want to be correct. And then we have also 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and we have our water. The water I will scale as we put the ingredients together. So this is still mixing up, and again there is no rush. Sometimes what I do is just do it like this so that everything falls down from the side, but that's okay. Now this mixer is great, it's over 20 years old, but sometimes it's a little bit temperamental. When I turn it off, it doesn't always stay off. Sometimes it jumps back on a little bit, but in this case it's good. So I'm just gonna clear this up so that nothing goes down. And then as the next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the wet ingredients in there. Okay, so the wet ingredients, I have to make three holes. So the first hole has to be quite a bit bigger because I have to put in 144 grams of avocado oil. Okay, and the ingredients, they shouldn't be mixed up while it's in the bowl. They should be only mixed up with the water later on. So I'm going to show you this in a second, what it will look inside here, and this will be then enough for the ingredients. So again, one will be for the vinegar, the other one will be for the vanilla extract, and the third one will be for the avocado oil. Okay, so just to show you this roughly what it looks like. So now first thing what I'm going to pour in is the avocado oil, and that is 144, so I'm going to turn on my scale again and pour that in there. 144 grams. So 130, 3, 6, 8, 41. Yeah, I guess that's the theme. Oh, that's 145 instead of. And now here, this is already measured. This is the vinegar. Okay, I don't have to scale it because I already had that scaled before. And now basically the last ingredients, or almost last ingredients, the last ingredients which we're going to scale is our vanilla extract. Now vanilla extract is basically we use a teaspoon, which is 5 milliliter, and I need 2 of them, so which will be basically 10 grams. So I'm not that picky about that. But, so we got 8, and yeah, again, we're right on with the theme. We got 11 grams in there, so that's good. And now the last ingredients, what we need is basically our water. And the water basically mixes the wet ingredients together. And prior to the water, they are basically in the different barrels. I can't tilt this right now to show you, but you just have to believe me on that one. So in this case, 470 grams of water. So I guess it's going to be ending up at 471 grams of water as we do it all the way. So we're going to be right about 465, 79, 70. Okay, 470. So now we got this going, and this is now coming into our mixer. So now we're gonna let this slowly mix on low speed. Again, I have to watch my KitchenAid because sometimes it's not running too well on the low speed, so be with me. Of course, I forgot one ingredient, and which is my spatula. So obviously we need a spatula to put it everything in the glass tray later on nicely. I'm just going to make a little bit space here, so that it's easier for me to put in the glass tray. Now the glass tray, you basically have different options. It doesn't have to be exact size. So this one is 13 by 9, right? Which means if you have a smaller tray, the cooking time will be a little bit less. Sorry, if it's smaller, the cooking time will be a little bit more. And if it's bigger, a little bit less, because then it's thinner. And this is going to be, when I'm looking right now as it mixes it up, you can still see a little bit the shape of the mixer as it goes in circles. So it's a good consistency, and you will also see it later on when I basically pour it in there. But there won't be a big difference, because the nice part on this recipe, there are no eggs. So with eggs, it's always one egg could be a little bit bigger, another egg is a little bit smaller. In this case, you don't have eggs, so all the ingredients, whatever you put in there, are exact the same amount of ingredients. And the cake will taste really good. So if we're looking at our stove right now, it's at 330, so it's almost perfect temperature that it will basically reach the 350 when we're ready here. Okay, I have to hold this, not that it turns back on me. I'm just gonna clean this up a little bit, like so. And as I said, you can put everything also, you can mix it right in the tray as well if you want to, but I learned that it's going much better if I basically do this in the KitchenAid. And there we go. Stove has reached the temperature. We're just going to pour this in here. You can see how nicely this looks. And the nice part with this is you don't really have to care that much about anything, right? You can just pour it in there. And everything mixes up nicely, and it's easy to make. As I said, it doesn't take long, and literally anybody can do this. And everybody will like this cake too. I know a lot of you guys probably are familiar, possibly already, with this cake. and not a lot of people in Germany know about this, but in North America it's much more common. But as I said, it's very, very easy. So now we're going to basically put this in the oven for 30 minutes, and then I will show you after 30 minutes what it's going to look like. So timer is going. I will see you shortly. Okay, now the cake is done. So what I had to do is basically I cooked it for 30 minutes. I just want to show you guys this. After 30 minutes, it came out like this. So there was still a bit brown on it when I poked into it. So after that, I basically ran it for another 3 minutes, and as you can see now, my knife is nice and clear. So it's very common that you have to basically work a little bit on the length by baking. In this case, as you can see, it's an easy recipe, crazy cake. Now you can serve it different ways. One is just put a little powdered sugar on top. That's one way. As we German, we love whipped cream, so you can also serve it with whipped cream. And it's, as you see, very easy to make and very delicious. Alrighty, enjoy the cake.